And I love how you speak about updating our quantum technology, because it is technology. Our bodies are... Hello and welcome back to Her Daily Rhythm. I'm your host, Natalie Smythe, and I'm thrilled to guide you on this journey with FemVed, a holistic wellness platform dedicated to helping women through menstrual cycles to hormonal awareness up until menopause. In this episode, you are so lucky and in for a treat because we are interviewing and chatting and learning all about Francesca Blechner's work. Francesca is a holistic health and embodied leadership coach for soul-led entrepreneurs tired of sacrificing their health and business. Francesca has 24 years experience in the wellness industry, and her approach is multidisciplinary and holistic, connecting all of the dots between mind, body, emotions, lifestyle, trauma, ancestry, and environment, which is so crucial right now. She's the author of Self-Care for Life in the City, addressing the rising epidemic of burnout, and has taught wellness retreats globally, has coached hundreds of people, including members of the Saudi royal family, CEOs, celebrities, athletes, and city professionals with busy, demanding lifestyles. And in this interview, we discuss Francesca's journey and how she has transformed her practice from the fitness industry with incorporating the importance of addressing the nervous system and embodiment work for true healing beyond diet and lifestyle changes. And we delve most importantly into her symptoms of burnout, sleep disruption, hormonal imbalance, and that highlights the significance of breathwork and nervous system regulation. And we also touch on something that's becoming so increasingly important, is understanding the role of ancestral trauma and the body's ability to hold and withhold emotional and psychological stress. So stay tuned, this is a goodie. Francesca is a local practitioner based in UK, so please always comment, tell us what you love, what you'd like to hear of, so we can answer your questions. Stay tuned and let's get on with the show. Wow, that is an incredible accolade of achievements and pioneering in the wellness industry for such a long time. Welcome, Francesca. I'm so happy that you're sharing your story with our listeners. So I would love for you to share, how has your practice evolved? Particularly, I know that you started in the fitness industry as well, so I would love you to share about that.
Yeah, I did. Thank you so much. So yeah, I started out in fitness 23 years ago, and with fitness, it was very much about nutrition, what you ate, but also your training. And we didn't really open up much into the mental, emotional, mind or spiritual aspects. So I was personal training from officially 2004 for about 15 years, and I loved it. I was in my 20s. I had lots of clients, a thriving business, and I worked with a wide range of people. And what I started to notice was there was a piece, a lot of the people I was working with, particularly a lot of women actually that were mothers or had young children, but were also back in their careers, and then, career, manage the home and just do all the life things. So I was noticing this pattern of burnout. So from quite an early, space of talking about stress and the nervous system, I was already veering down that route of reading into it. And at the time, there were two main people who were talking about it, which was Paul Chek and a man called Charles Poliquin. So I started to study about stress, hormones, and how stress has an impact on the hormonal profile. And so I started to apply some of that to my clients and, really balancing out their training with more restorative work and what they ate and how your sleep cycles are so important for hormonal health and for your nervous system. So then my approach was always quite holistic, but it was a lot of, self-studying. And so I was doing that from probably, 2008, 2009 myself, speaking with clients and bringing more of that holistic approach and talking about the nervous system in quite a basic way. And then for myself, being on the go all the time, and I kind of thrived off adrenaline, if I'm honest. I thrived off being this go, 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 busy, busy, busy. Great in my 20s, but in my 30s, started to catch up. And so I found I was really hitting this repeated cycle of burnout for myself. It was I thought I was invincible. I thought I could kind of keep going at this intense pace, that I was strong. And as I kept reaching burnout, I knew I couldn't sustain the pace that I was working and living at. And I was just lost the joy of it, to be honest. And it took me, I would say, accidentally, but not by accident, down different various trainings, which really much more connected the mind-body connection. So I'd be recommended to go on this course, for example, and I'd be like, that sounds really fascinating. I'm going to go into that. And then obviously every time you do a training or course, you have to experience it for yourself. And I had this realization of, oh my goodness, like my physiology is completely scattered. My whole physical body was shut down, and I had fantastic compensation patterns, which meant I could keep overriding my system. And until I really had that feedback from my physiology, I would never have seen it, that I was then able to compute, wow, I need to, this is a real feedback here. And so that was kind of a very profound turning point for me. And then I started to apply that to some of my clients as well. And I was getting really profound results. And then I started to realize that a lot of injuries that people were coming in for were really stress related and anxiety related. And then it was about getting to the root cause of what that stress, that anxiety was. And then just over the years, organically, I trained in like holistic lifestyle coaching with Paul Chet Institute, and really helped to connect the dots between all of these aspects: mind, body, emotions, lifestyle, dis-ease, environment, chemical toxicity. Whereas the fitness industry, it was quite limited to just really the physical body, what you eat, what training you're going to do. But there was so much more beyond that. And it was like, why is it that some of my clients are getting great results, and then others, they're doing the same things, but nothing, everything, it's this, they're staying the same. And so unless we really connect all of the dots, it was a limited approach. It had a ceiling. So it's kind of how I got into it. Accidentally, sort of, the path was paved.
But I think that's always that's always what happens, isn't it, for practitioners? You always learn what you most need to teach. Totally. And what you're teaching is that embodiment piece, because otherwise, like, how can we fully express it and share it without knowing what it is in our body, right? Yes. And I would love you to share, you spoke about you had those symptomology of symptoms of a scattered physiology and those compensatory patterns. I feel like, we've spoken about burnout for a long time. It's a hot topic, and now it's evolving, thank goodness, to restoration and things. But I think still a lot of people are really cut off from what is their symptoms, because we're living up here, aren't we? Yeah. We're so cut off from our body. So would you be able to explain what those symptoms are?
Yeah, totally. And that's such a good point as well, because the thing is, most people, they don't realize they're burnt out. So when people come to me, they don't usually come to me with burnout. It's when they receive back the assessment and the whole analysis, that it's the first time that they breathe and go, I have permission to actually, it's now being recognized that I am burnt out. This is why I feel like this. Because there's an expectation to just keep on going, keep pushing, you'll be fine. You got this. That's actually a real peeve of mine, that statement. You got this, because you got this is kind of like, yeah, you got it. You can handle it. Just keep going. This is why so many people are actually burnt out. Yeah. So some of those symptoms, okay, sleep disruption. It's insomnia. Waking up, even no matter how much sleep you have, you wake up, you feel groggy. So no matter how much sleep you have, you wake up and you don't feel rested. Okay, that's a big one. You have to rely on caffeine or stimulants to keep your energy up. Low libido, no drive, hormonal imbalances, menstrual disruptions. How you feel is a big one as well. Mood, irritability. you feel that you're on a short fuse. You feel very reactive all the time. You're in this state of anxiety. Big one is a loss of drive as well. So, and there's so many different forms of burnout. So for me, I was burnt out, but I didn't recognize I was burnt out because I was actually, I loved what I did. I loved my job. I was living my purpose. Everything felt great, but I was just pushing myself too much. And this is why I love working with high achievers, because I was in that category, just push myself, keep going, too yang. There wasn't the balance. You have to have the yang and the yin. You know, I was way too yang, always doing, pushing, training, like just busy. I was addicted to being busy, if I'm honest. And I think a lot of people have that because sometimes being still is more confronting.
And I think that's really big too in our modern world and our society. Our purpose is built off busyness.
Yes.
So I wonder if you could speak about that, because if somebody has built their purpose on being busy and being needed and this A-type personality, and they've been doing this for 20 years, so now it's habitual, probably longer. How do you unravel that? What is the first step to that? I suppose the first step maybe is that they have to be aware of it, that I can't do this anymore because my physical body is falling apart. They have to have a collapse. So how do we stop people from coming to burnout and collapse? Because when you have a diagnosis of burnout or collapse, that's not okay. Now we have to work on the physiology a lot more. So
yes,
what would be your advice to people? So we don't all have to experience a rock bottom. We don't have to experience what you experience, what, probably a lot of practitioners have experienced.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's huge actually, I would say, especially in the personal training world and practitioner world, burnout is really big. So the first thing I would say, and this is something I had to realize, one day I just sat and I was like, everyone will say, I got a lot of validation from my work, I'll be honest. Identity piece is huge. If you're only identified with what you do, what you do can be a really big part of you in your life, especially if you are on purpose. But if that becomes your only identity, you can get really lost in that. That means you're kind of outsourcing your self-esteem, your self-worth to the validation that you're getting back. So one day I was like, everyone was like, oh, you're so busy. And I was like, yeah, I am. And then I was like, well, hold on a minute. At the compromise of my own health, because I was getting burnt out, I had fungal skin infection on my arms. I was just exhausted. I was getting anxiety. At the compromise of having even time to have a relationship or meet somebody. And I was like, well, hold on, that's not success. So I had to really sit down. I'm actually living somebody else's definition of success, because this is not what I want. I don't want to be so busy and have my time filled up that it's at the sacrifice of my health, my well-being, and relationships, my priorities. And so what I often start with people is, well, let's redefine success for you on your terms. And when I got clear on that, everything changed. So my new definition, which is still true to this day, is that I have the energy, time, and resources to do the things I love with the people I love, while that keeps my cup filled up to do the work that creates service and impact in the world and live my passion and purpose. Once I did that, everything in my life started to shape around that. And then get clear on your values. What are your core values for yourself? So many people I work with, I ask them, what is the core values of your business or the business you work for? Boom, 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 they can tell me. What are your personal values? Never really thought about it. Why? You're central to your business, you're central to your work, you're central to your family. Shouldn't we be talking about that? So when people actually starting there is a really powerful place, because it will shift a lot of things and it will have some realizations of, am I living my truth or am I living out societal's expectations, the validation that I get from other people, my parents' expectations? So I would start there.
Yeah, I think that's a really big one on that validation piece and your self-worth and your values, because we don't know, because we don't have time to know based on what we've built for ourselves, don't we? And I'm maybe taking a side step, but I love how you incorporate all the holistic elements, and just to add to that is this ancestral piece. I wonder, because I think that's part of knowing what your values is incorporating or knowing your ancestral lineage. Could you maybe speak about that and how that's important to this value piece?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, well, through epigenetics, we carry generational and intergenerational trauma is passed down through the genetics. So that's, it's said to go back 14 generations back. So that's really important, because when it comes to the trauma piece and unresolved trauma that's in the system, it might not be your stuff. It might be what's happened, down the line, for example. So, for example, slavery, or, populations that were wiped off their land, and they're carrying that piece perhaps where they will never feel safe or like a sense of belonging. And that's really important in working in the embodiment piece. Okay, getting grounded, actually getting in your body. Are they actually even living in their body? The nervous system will be attuned to a certain frequency. Trauma is passed down in the womb, in utero. So when a baby is in the womb, they're already there's consciousness, and that's the generational trauma is passed down in utero. And so even like a woman who's pregnant, for example, she has, and I've worked with people, for example, the mother was in an abusive relationship, and the baby in the womb, they didn't have a recollection of feeling that in the womb, maybe if they've gone through womb regression. But I'll give an example of a client of mine who's a friend of mine, who's, the mother was, physically abused in pregnancy, and the father had a lot of anger issues, and he always was like angry. And they even said as a 2-year-old, he was an angry child, the angry toddler. No real reason to be angry logically as a 2-year-old, but it was something that he'd was holding in his nervous system, that they took him to like psychiatrists, and he was carrying that up until adult life. In his late 30s, 40s, when we did some work to really help clear and move that. So this can affect everything: how your patterns in life, how you are in relationships, how you are with money, your health, for example, patterns of health that can be passed down through the epigenetics because of more trauma-based.
So even more so that it's our responsibility to acknowledge, at least, that if you are experiencing anxiety, or if you're having these patterns of not making enough money, or having to excel yourself, or these maybe patterns of abuse, that it's maybe not yours too, it's you're carrying lineages.
Yeah,
of
100%.
that. So the work for this is the nervous system. So I wonder if you could explain what it means to restore the nervous system for a lot of people that might not be familiar with that, and how integral it is for right now in this work with somatic work also.
Yeah. I love this question. So how I see it is that, we are incredible vessels, human beings, and, you are like a quantum computer. So much is happening internally inside that we can't even comprehend. Like we have trillions of cells, and everything is just alive and vibrating and oscillating at all times. And now, if the nervous system is the hardware, so if you think of a computer, your nervous system is a hardware program, and the mind is a software program. So the patterns and programs that are downloaded from society, from your parents, from teachers, from authority figures, for example, that gets programmed in and it might change the hardware. So our hardware program, which is the nervous system, our natural state of health is harmony, balance, peace, vibrant health. That is our natural state. That is coherence. So that's what I mean by restoring. It's like rebooting. If your hardware program on your computer is it's a little bit kind of distorted, maybe it's kind of, a bit slow because there's hundreds of tabs open and it's jumping around a little bit. That's like this. We need to kind of give it a reboot, basically. You need to restore it. It's the same with the nervous system. We want to restore it back to health and harmony to bring balance. So there are many ways to do that, but it's acknowledging, okay, let's bring ourselves back into coherence, back into our natural state, which is peace, harmony, and health and self-healing. Because when the body is restored, it will go into its own self-healing reboot, basically.
So when the body's not in coherence, the state of harmony, then you'll be impacted by symptoms of hormonal imbalance or like anger, emotions, anxiety.
If it's been out of coherence for a chronic period of time, because we are meant to handle stress, we are meant to have stress, but if we're in that state of chronic stress all the time or out of coherence, like constantly bouncing in and out of coherence, then yes. But it's not a problem to be out of coherence or to have stress when the hardware has been more regulated or rebooted. We can handle that because we're meant to expand in fact, it helps us to expand our capacity to be with all that is there, to be with the stress in life, as opposed to we go more into a reactive state and it just compounds, and eventually that pressure cooker explodes. Symptoms, of course, dis-ease. When symptoms appear in the body, it's been bubbling under the surface a much longer time.
And I suppose that's different from the fight, flight, freeze, horn response as well? Or that's injunctive into it?
No, it ties right into it as well. Yeah, it ties right into it. So that coherence is like the regulation. So when the nervous system is in its kind of healthy state, that hardware system is in balance, let's say, more in balance, then that's where, health will flourish.
Okay. And then so what would be a practice, or how would we incorporate into this daily life if a woman maybe has a small family and she's also working? What is something, and she's obviously wired and she's relying on coffee and things like that. What is something that she could start incorporating into her day to regulate her nervous system?
There's many things and practices, but thinking kind of, specifically for someone like that, one always say is to become aware of how you are breathing. This is key, right? Because we take roughly 26,000 breaths a day. If you can interrupt those breaths that become, short, stressful breaths. Sorry, not stressful breaths, but when you breathe shallow, that stimulates the stress response and it triggers anxiety. So if the breath is all neck up because she's on high alert and, she's juggling a lot, then she's in this continual state of stress. So at least if she can just bring her breath down, bring it into the belly, that is starting to regulate the nervous system. It's starting to bring back harmony, groundedness. She's going to be more in her body. And that's really the easiest, quickest thing that somebody can do. Just take a moment, handle the lower belly. Can I bring my breath down here? Feel the lower belly expand. Pause. Another one is to get outside as well. Spend some time in nature. If she can. Go out for a short walk with the children. Nature is very discharging.
I suppose it's that reorientating, isn't it? To bring yourself back to your internal nature.
Yeah, exactly.
And And that I suppose maybe I want to speak about the importance of breath work, because maybe actually our listeners, we haven't really spoken so much about breath work and that the importance of that anatomy and breathing deeply into your body. I know it's a buzzword and people want a quick fix, but the quick fix is the breath work and that 1 minute timeout. So could you maybe talk about the anatomy of that diaphragm and how important that is, and how to breathe into that space, create that co-regulation, and how it is so much better than taking a drug or a superfood or something like that?
Yeah, exactly. So the diaphragm, I'm just going to drop my screen slightly, is that under the ribs here. Okay, so all underneath the ribs and all the way around the back is your diaphragm muscle. And your diaphragm muscle, when you breathe in, you breathe into the lungs, the diaphragm will drop down to fill up with air. And then as the air comes out, the diaphragm comes up. But if we're all up here breathing, kind of, hyperventilating basically, the diaphragm doesn't really get used and it becomes very tight. So a lot of the time when I work with people's diaphragms, we'll get them to go into the diaphragm for the first time. They're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is so tight. Mine as well. This is how I got into this work, was I first had my diaphragm release and I just could not believe how much tension, how much I was in this bracing pattern my whole life. And so every time you actually breathe with the diaphragm, so and bring the breath deeper, you're actually massaging all of these beautiful organs here, all of the abdominal organs, colon, the small intestine, the reproductive organs, the liver is getting a bit of a massage. So all of this is getting a massage and getting nutrient, oxygen-rich blood going to all of the organs. So for one, that is more life force going to your organs and more vitality flowing to all of your organs. So for some people, I've had people's cycles just start to sync up, become a lot less painful. Pain is common, but it's not normal, right? It's your body telling you something. When even in menstruation, it's not meant to be painful. And so just by getting the life force there, because if that can change half of the day, that's 13,000 little massages happening every day. So really, we make health complicated, but it can be quite simple. So I've seen people's digestive issues and reproductive issues, menstrual issues clear up just by more diaphragmatic breathing. So important.
I love that. 13,000 massages a day. And it's interesting because when I work at corporate, or even I do my pranayama in the morning, or we do our breath practices in the morning, but then we forget, right? Then for the rest of the day, when we have to go about life, we cut ourselves off and forget. Because and as well, the way that we're sitting, we're all hunched over like this, or all looking over our phones. So we're completely disconnected from this diaphragmatic breathing. So I really want to highlight how important it is. And you've just noticed some simple changes with your clients just by incorporating the breath work into your...
And that's just diaphragmatic breathing. That's not even like going deep into breath work itself. Just something that people can do. Because, and also when you, like you said, when you do a practice in the morning with breathwork, for example, and what's great about breathwork is that it does make you become more conscious of how you breathe just generally through your day. So you'll start to interrupt those patterns, as I did. I was a bracer. I was always holding my abs in tight because, especially as women, we're very much, taught, hold your belly in, hold everything in, look slimmer. That was also an unconscious pattern that I was doing. Yes, I worked in a gym where it was like, pull your abs in, but I didn't need to be doing it 24/7. There was something else going on. It was actually an armor. It was an armor. Like, don't come too close to me. Come close, but not too close, because then you'll really see me. And I'm not ready for vulnerability. I didn't know how to do that. And so, you start to interrupt these patterns. So I had to retrain myself to stop bracing when I found myself going into these bracing patterns, and then I could interrupt it because the new pattern started to download into my system. This is what it's like to breathe fully. Well, I've never breathed down here before, but it feels different. It feels much better than bracing And so slowly it's a matter of unraveling and retraining.
And I just want to highlight that as well, the important, because you've mentioned the patterns a little bit, and maybe not everybody realizes that, but you mentioned the pattern was bracing. The pattern was that you lived for 15 years of your life protecting, like not breathing. And then so the introduction to break that tensity, break that barrier that you were holding, is that incorporating it like daily, and it's a practice of reintroducing a new pattern so you can open yourself.
Yes. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And so I know a lot of your work is this nervous system work, it's the breath work, these holistic practices, but then it's that somatic practice. And I know this is a bit of a buzzword now, but it truly is how your body keeps the score. And I know you talk about this a lot. So I wonder if you could speak about how your body keeps the score and how what that means for somatic work.
Yeah, beautiful. So to put it simply, language is very powerful, right? So a lot of language that is used to describe the body or how we're feeling or emotions is actually very visceral. So if you think about, and the body it holds a score, right? We hold certain patterns in our body. So for example, I'm going to give you a few sayings that you've probably heard of or that the listeners can relate to, that you realize has a real actual visceral connection. I'm carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. My stomach's in knots. My stomach's doing somersaults. Butterflies in my stomach. That normally relates to kind of love and that romantic feeling. I had to swallow back my tears, holding it back. So where does that energy has to go somewhere? So it's we're speaking that energy in the body. I need to get something off my chest. I feel something on my chest. My heart is broken. Whenever we experience grief or heartbreak from somebody that we love, it's felt in the heart. And this energy, really, emotion is just energy in motion. If this energy doesn't move through the body, it's like it's stuck. There becomes a density, and that density over time starts to manifest as symptoms. Remember I worked in a retreat earlier this year. It was a lady who'd had a persistent cough, and she was going through divorce and going through grief, and she said, it was like a day in, she's like, do you think this cough is to do with, maybe linked to grief or what I'm going through? And it's like, wow, when did it start? Oh, of course, the timing of when that was all really unfolding. And grief is, very much linked to the lungs. It's linked to the chest, the heart. And so actually when we tapped into moving that emotion, feeling that emotion, moving it through the breath, through the body work, it started to release, and it got much better after a few days, even if she'd had it for a few months. So that's when you say the body holds a score, our body, this quantum computer, is always trying to communicate and tell us. We tend to judge it and beat it up. Oh, got this ache, it's a nuisance, this pain. But actually, everything is trying to send you a message as well. And yeah, so the somatic is tapping into that wisdom of the body, into the felt sense, because the mind and body aren't separate. Western medicine, all other medicines actually have a holistic view, indigenous, everything connected, mind, body, and spirit, soul, and energy. It's really only Western medicines that kind of like mind here, body here, all body parts are separate, and it doesn't make sense. It's not. We're holistic beings. We're multidimensional. So we have to look at the whole picture, and the somatic is that one way of accessing, because emotions are felt in the body. There is an impact with the thoughts that we think, even, and the chemical reactions there. So everything is connected. You can't separate. It's not going to work anymore.
Yeah, it's not going to work anymore. I think that's the thing, is we realize now we have so much advancements in medicine, technology. There is so much funding, but we are more sick and more in pain and more in mental despair. Right? So I love that piece of speaking to your body and asking what does it need, or if there is a pain, because I'm actually experiencing it right now, but I have gone through this big period of grief this year, and now my body is telling me, like, my shoulder has gone and my lower back has gone, and I'm someone that's quite physical, and but I was like, how did this happen? Like, I didn't do anything. So when I kind of looked in the symptoms or kind of just sat with it, it's like, you're doing too much. You don't have to hold the weight of the world on your shoulders, and you're doing enough. And I think that's a nice interlude into doing enough as women. I think we all don't feel that we are enough or do enough. So I wonder, on this somatic journey, what are some things that we can do to just remind ourselves that we are enough?
Wow. That's a big question, actually.
Sorry for that one.
That's a big one. That's great. I'm gonna see what comes up. So, my friend and I were talking about this, actually. Enough, like, we are more than enough. We are valuable. We're incredible. We are, like, to have a human body on Earth is an incredible thing. We are quantum computers. So many things there. I think one was exploring the piece I was mentioning before about identity. And I think a lot of people identify with this, even when you're living in your purpose and passion. And I've been through it too. Who am I without doing what I do? Who am I without my job, my business? Like, can I sit in my value of amazingness because I'm a human body, because I'm here on Earth, because all the generations that I'm clearing, well, right now, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners who are listening, we are an extraordinary time on the planet. And the people right now between kind of actually quite young age, I've been seeing some of my clients are early 20s who are very switched on, very conscious, doing the work that, I wasn't doing when I was 20. I wasn't even aware of doing trauma release work and stuff. You are the pattern breakers. So between that age and kind of maybe mid 40s, early 50s, they have pattern breakers that are changing generations behind us and ahead. And so sitting with going beyond what you have, what you do, identity in that way, and actually sitting in the amazingness of being incarnated onto this earth, but really being in your body as well. That's a big thing. Feeling safe in your body. When you feel safe and grounded in your body, there's this sense of kind of more peace and more presence.
One of your clients was talking about how they were overweight for a really long time. And then from working with you and doing this work of inner alchemy, that they just had to feel safe in their body. They didn't feel safe in their body, and the weight was a protection. Yes. So I just wanted to add that when you spoke about that.
Yeah, because when you're in that survival energy, it's very hard to feel like you're safe, you're enough, you're trust in yourself, So a lot of those things that come up, safety, trust in yourself, and that requires embodiment. embodiment of who you are, taking up residency actually in your body. There's a lot of work out there. There's beautiful spiritual work out there where, people are having lovely spiritual experiences, but you need to also be here in your body. You have a body too. And when you bring those both together, then the power is amplified. But there also is a lot of like checking out of the body, escapism, and being in the spiritual experiences or chasing that a little bit, but they find it hard to actually be present and in the body. And that's where you cultivate your inner safety, trust of yourself. So you're not looking for the validation that you're enough from anything else, because you feel grounded in your body, you know who you are. And you trust yourself. You trust life more. It doesn't mean always, but there is more of a trust. You trust yourself more.
I think that's really big. And just to add on a personal experience, recently I was working with one of my teachers, and I have a pattern of betrayal, and that's in my ancestry lineage, and I'm really reliving it now, but I'm breaking the pattern. And then what came through is he said, Natalie, where are you betraying yourself? And I think that's a really big one on that safety and trust of yourself. And where are you betraying yourself on just keeping your word and all of these things? They're things they're concepts that are simple, but if we don't want to face them, or we're seeking outward or casting blame or don't even know because we're not in our body, it's just within.
Yeah. That's a beautiful mirror, right? It's like, for me, my pattern was I'd always go for emotionally unavailable men, because it was like, come close, I want you to come in, but don't come too close, because I couldn't meet my own emotional needs. Like, I was used to being the strong one, have it all together, hyper independent. Look what I can do for myself. There was no room for anyone to meet me. And then I wondered why they kept disappearing until I met myself. So the reflection was always, what do they say? Finger pointing out, 3 fingers pointing back. Wow, I haven't fully met myself, to be present with myself. Been so busy. And again, that busyness can be a mask. Addiction to work, addiction to productivity, addiction to doing. And I'm not saying that there's still some layers of that show up for me in my life, that kind of do. But I see it more clearly now. And until I met myself, then I met my partner.
So I guess that really sums up the work of inner alchemy, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah, I never thought of that. It absolutely, that is. You transform what is the shadows, transform it into the gold. It was me. There it was all along. And you break
I love that. And that just goes to and then you break the pattern. Oh, that gives me goosebumps. Yeah, I think that's a big one. There's a saying that I love right now. It's break the pattern or the pattern breaks you.
Yes, that's good.
And as you say, we're breaking the pattern right now. And so I guess, your work now is all of this, which is every single person that is born in this time, as you say, it's their responsibility now. Because everything that you're facing outside in the world, or hate, or anyone mistreats you, it's just that reflection, isn't it?
Because we can't always control what everyone else is doing outside of us as well, but we can control how we feel and take ownership of our own energy and spot it. Because sometimes people that do horrible things, and that's not always to say, well, that's a reflection back. But because we can't control everything outside of ourselves or other people, but we can control how we feel, how we be, and take control of our own nervous systems, and that has a ripple effect.
So if, for example, people are maybe dealing with an uncomfortable boss, or they're dealing with maybe a bad neighbor, or someone that is out of their control, but what would be your advice to them to, as the first steps to go within, to then maybe see a subtle shift as to how people are showing up around them?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, also it is, I guess, going back within. Okay, am I present? Am I in my body? Where's my nervous system at? Because if they are triggering, there's that obviously that unhealed part of you that might be, yes, reflecting that pattern or triggering you back. So when awareness is first, so once you start to see what it is within you that is being triggered, that I suppose that becomes that begins to dissolve. It's seeing that blind spot and shifting how you feel. How do you feel? If you go into work already, let's say you start your day feeling, fast paced, feeling anxious, jittery, you're likely to react to somebody. You're likely to be in a much more reactive state. So, for example, on the road, if you're so, how you start your day, how you feel is going to have an impact to how you feel and navigate through the rest of your day and your relationships as well. So, if you're starting off feeling very anxious, fast-paced, jittery, because you hadn't taken any time to just nourish your nervous system first and ground yourself and be in your body. Let's say you go on the road and someone will cut you up in traffic, and you'll probably be more likely to react and like beep and, curse, rather than if you were in a different space, it might not affect you as much. Do you see? So really it's like taking ownership of like, well, how do I start my day? How do I feel? How can I prime my nervous system and condition myself, my own energetics? And then you start to see things shift. You might not even notice that happens.
Yeah, it's that responsibility and awareness.
Yeah.
It's the first piece, isn't it?
Yes.
What is your work now with Alchemy, with your business, and how are you transforming what are you helping your clients with now? Because this work is so important. I'm the biggest advocate and proponent for it with every single person that I see and meet. So how can we get to know more of your work and share?
Thank you. Well, at the moment, I work a lot one-to-one in really bridging all of the things together, the holistic health. Well, like I say, connecting the dots, mind, body, emotions, health, toxicity, and, trauma. And that is through the coaching, holistic health, and bringing in the somatic work through the somatic body work and the somatic breath work to really come back to restoring, vibrant, radiant health, coming back to coherence, rebooting the hardware system. And that is when you reboot the hardware system, self-healing happens. We're meant to thrive, not just survive. So I work with that. I do like VIP days, and I'm going to be working maybe towards the end of this year or next year on more of a group style program as well. And that's in the process where it's, bringing all of those things together, the restore, release, transform, master, embody. That's the framework. And I've just released the Body Wisdom series on demand, which is a 4-part series, do it at home yourself, that is designed to release stuck energy in the body, restore the nervous system, master yourself, and transform your inner landscape and embody more of who you are. So it's a video and self-inquiry of somatic movement, somatic self-body work, some gentle breath work, and self-inquiry. So that's just been released a couple of weeks ago. So do it yourself at home, anytime, lifetime access.
That's so cool, because I think it's like we expect it to be hard, don't we? We expect to have like, a tablet and then just go about our business. But we can do like really quick exercises and movement practices and breath work to really experience a profound shift. And I love how you speak about updating our quantum technology, because it is technology. Our bodies are amazing.
It is. It's so true.
So thank you, Fran. I think this information, as I said, I could rave about it all day, and it's so important and so vital, above nutrition and food as far as I'm concerned, really. I need it. I need people to do your work before they come to me. So I'm so pleased that you're doing this work. You've been on the journey and you're living and breathing it.
Thank you.
So we ask all of our guests, a round of Fembe quickfire questions. I wonder if I could ask you a quick, and just it's the first thing that comes to you.
Okay. Yeah.
So I know and a lot of the time we have spoken about these, but just first thing that comes out is, tell me how you live in rhythm.
Oh, well, I track my cycles. That's been a game changer for me. So I living with that. I know where I am on my cycle, and I adapt to my training and kind of my diet a little bit for each phase of my cycle. I tune into my rhythm. I have slow mornings. I have time. I don't see clients or work with anyone before 11 a.m. And I tune into really what my body needs, as opposed to a structured physical training plan that I used to have years ago. It's more like, what does my body want to do today?
Yeah, that's the biggest shift. That's powerful. And do you have cheat days? And what do you do on those days? What would you do?
I don't define a cheat day, because I'm not living like really kind of structured like plan, let's say. So a cheat day, everything I allow, it all in, I suppose. So if I fancy something sugar, like sweet, I have my go-to kind of healthier versions. Some days is like relax on the sofa day. Not very often, to be honest.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I have a cheat day, because I don't define that, I suppose. It's more like I live quite a holistic, healthy lifestyle, but I also have some fun, but I like to feel good. So
it's like, you live holistically. If you want it, you're going to have it.
Yeah.
And then it's not a cheat. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not like,
what do you do in those days where, like you're PMSing and people around you just feel like, oh my God, you're so stupid. It's like, do you have those days? And, how do you come back into balance?
Oh yeah. When I always say to people, hence the driving example earlier, that driving is my spiritual practice, especially if you drive in London. That will test. Okay, let's see how much work you've done now. Let's see how regulated you are now. So what do I do? And that's when I'm like, no one can drive. So what do? Do you know what? I laugh at myself. I take a step back and I go, I sort of like, I joke with myself. Look at how you're speaking. Look at how you're talking. Look at how you're judging everybody. Like, okay, take a step back. It's almost like I split the ego and the soul. And I'm like, the soul is looking looking within myself, go, oh, come on, lights up, Fran. I have a little laugh. I step back.
So you're catching those patterns in real time then. Like, yes. That's a practice, isn't it?
That's it. The more you do the somatic, you start to catch it, you start to see it, and you start to have a word with yourself. Or I might go out for a walk. Walking in nature for me is very, very healing for me. I'm a Virgo, I'm an earth sign. Just being out in nature is very healing.
What is one statement you use to hype your girlfriend?
Which not you got this.
I love that. just remote, just catching you out. No, because you know how we have such negative self-talk to ourselves, but to our girlfriends, we'll give them the world and the best advice, won't we?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So what I'd say, let go of judging yourself. Really, as I say with a lot of people, actually just tune in to the feedback. What is your body saying? What is your body, the feedback that it's giving you? Have a conversation with your body. Like I was just doing, have a conversation with your body, have a conversation with your soul. Stop judging yourself. Your soul would never judge you.
Your soul would never judge you. Oh, that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
That's a quote from Blechner for sure. And if you are having a bad day, where do you get your motivation from?
In the sparring podcast, actually, Daily Rhythm. Something uplifting, it's just just listening to something inspirational. There's so much bad news out there, and just being able to listen to something that is inspirational, it's uplifting. Again, it comes back to tuning in. What do I need? In a day like that. Yesterday, my dad's 4th anniversary of his passing, and I was like, what I intended to do that day was a bit of a write-off. I was like, no, okay, listen, and then what do I need? Do you know what? I just need to go and have a bit of fresh air, go outside, walk on my own. And actually a bit of I have the luxury where I don't have children at the moment. So it's like, I can have that luxury to do self-care when I want, put a castor oil back on, live up. Early night, sometimes it's like, do I just need a few minutes of silence, just step into a few minutes of silence just to clear the noise, the external noise, the noise in your head sometimes. Yeah, nature is always one of my go-tos.
It's amazing how much you would resist it because you don't have enough time. But then you do it and it gives you everything that you were seeking or looking for when you were trying to go for it.
Yeah, totally. And that resistance was there. I was just kind of like meandering through my day, so I'm not really like just time was just going. I was like, I said I'd go out for a walk 2 hours ago, but my energy was just, and I was just present. I had no judgment. I was so present with everything that was there. Feeling all the emotions. And I was like, it's a bright, sunny day in autumn. I'd better go out now because it might not be like that tomorrow. So the resistance creeps for sure.
And do you have any last I mean, you've shared so much. Our listeners have so much wisdom for you. But is there anything that you'd like to share further that we've missed?
I think, thank you so much for having me on. I think it's a really important conversation. And I think that, my last thoughts is really that the power is within you. Everything is here. Just have to take the time to slow down and listen and really connect to your body and the incredible wisdom that holds within. We're made up of these cells and atoms, and everything is vibrating at different frequencies, and the organs, it's like an inner orchestra going on. So if you can just bring resonance and coherence and harmony to that, you will start to thrive in your life. And that's really just you are the alchemist. You are the way, but the power is really, within each and every one of us. And going back to the buy on demand, that the listeners can, if they use a code Daily Rhythm, I'll set up a 15% discount to your listeners on that.
Amazing. Wow, that's exciting. Well, Ashe, thank you for your presence and your commitment.